everybody, and welcome to this episode of Pete Carroll Was Right, the confusingly named Alabama football live video show. As always, it's Carter, Ben, and Mitch here to talk all things Alabama football with you. So this week we are going to be looking back at the Texas A&M game and hopefully doing something fun with y'all, where we're going to basically show the replay of the game and kind of talk over it. So hopefully that'll be interesting. Given that we started move the show to video like partially for this express purpose to like show film and do breakdowns and stuff, and then we didn't even have not thought to do it until last week. So
yeah, I'm pretty excited for this.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be fun. The quality is a little bit janky, but it's running well enough that you can basically see what's going on, and so we'll be able to kind of point out some stuff in real time and go back and forth through parts of the game. But yeah, any preliminary points we want to talk about before we get into it?
Not me. I said let's get into it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so this should fix the film as the one that everybody's seeing. I'm gonna hold on one second.
Okay.
The dryer was running and I don't think it was coming through, but it was distracting to me, so I turned it off. Okay, So here we are right before A&M's first play of the game. As you can see, they are in, I don't know, when you have an H-back, would you call that 20 or 11?
Is it, Mitch, is it still small for you?
No.
Okay. Oh, wait, maybe.
Got it. If you click on it, you can fix it as...
I got it. Okay, yeah, so they're in, I would say 11.
11, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think their first play is one of those swing passes to the running back that everyone was complaining about. And I said this, I rewatched this game, and we can run it. You would like to see a little quicker reaction from Sean Dion there, following the back out of the backfield,
right?
And a little better job from the defensive backs of shedding blocks on those type of plays, but
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they were so concerned about just the running game that maybe they were a little slow to get outside on those plays.
Right.
They're so keyed in. Let's see. Now this is going to be a theme. Not a lot of room in the run game. Actually, that was a pretty good. That was a pretty good pop. He got 5.
And they do have, like, when they're running those plays like those swing passes, like Ford and Williams are really good backs.
Yeah.
Particularly Williams is a pretty fast guy, and you get the ball to him on the outside. Sometimes he's just going to make plays.
Yeah. And they're going to try to play fast. Alabama again, kind of not really playing a lot of 2 safety. And there's Buggs, who had a phenomenal. I thought he was the best player on the defense.
Yeah, no, he was insane. I don't think he was one of the staff's like players of the week.
Yeah, that's kind of odd to me.
Which was weird. Like, that was very odd.
It was.
I don't know.
Anthony.
Well, he was great too. He was.
Yeah,
really
I think Minka was one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Minka, according to like Bill Connolly's, had one of the highest like havoc rate
really nice
stats I've
seen
from a defensive back in a while.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of talk. I mean, I don't know. I've seen some whispers about. So if he makes this field goal, should we skip ahead to the kickoff?
Yeah.
I've seen some talk about him maybe being the best player in the country, regardless of position, which is kind of interesting.
I think that's it's maybe not one of those. And with respect to Mark Ingram, maybe not one of those 2009 situations where it was like probably pretty obvious that Sue was the best player in the country in terms of a defensive guy who should be a Heisman candidate. But
who's this competition for best defensive player? I mean, there's Derwin.
Yeah, has he had that type of season though?
No, probably not. I mean, they're also getting overshadowed just because they've been so bad.
Yeah.
So now we're going to get a lot of action very quickly here, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Oh, wait.
Yeah, it skipped ahead. We missed the first 2 possessions.
Yeah, okay, that's right. Because this is the version I watched, and I forgot it. Yeah, it skips the first 2 possessions.
Right, right.
On neither of which anything happens on.
No. So Alabama's going to come out here, and the guy who I would say is sort of clearly clearly establishing himself as Alabama's best offensive player is going to
Yeah.
is going to make a little play here. Great double teams right at the point of attack, and then Damien kind of does the rest. Double team, and then there's
and boom.
Yeah, double team, and then Khan coming out and getting the hat on the linebacker. That's going to be that's going to be what springs it. And Damien's so quick with the cuts too, very kind of like Eddie Lacy like almost.
Yeah, very good vision, great cuts, great burst, and showing the top end speed after we all dogged him. It's really great to see him kind of, that one wasn't one where there was just nobody around. Like he
right.
busted through, and there were guys who were in position, and he just outran them, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, he's probably a little bit faster than people give him credit for. It's not the best part of his game, but it's it's not like he's slow.
I think the only guy I've seen catch up to him this season's been Robert Foster.
Yeah.
Okay, quick thing here, guys. I'm getting a notification that says the hangout on air will end if you continue broadcasting content you aren't authorized to use.
Whoa.
So we got some kind of like auto detection thing, which, okay, like this video is up on YouTube. I mean,
that's pretty funny. We've been
kind of ridiculous.
We've been caught.
I guess I will cut it off.
That's interesting to me that.
That's very funny.
There's no way that the user how could the user that posted this video have?
They must know somehow. That's really funny. Okay, well, back to the normal show. That's what we saw. We saw the best play of the game, right?
Yeah. There we go. I will pull that up in a tab here
to be able to show it intermittently.
And we can show clips.
That's so funny. Okay, so let's how about this? Let's just go back to our normal format and start with the offense.
Yeah, there we go. Kind of a rough day at times for the offense.
Yeah.
I think Jalen's performance in particular is sort of a reminder that progress, that development is not linear.
Right.
He had to. It's not like it was a disaster. I mean, he continued to be. He had a couple of really nice runs on scrambles.
Didn't turn the ball over.
Maybe
one or two dangerous plays, but really not many.
Yeah, definitely one.
And there were a couple, like the throw to Robert Foster that he lost track of that would have been called back on an eligible man penalty was a good throw. He had.
How about the throw that Robert Foster got interfered on late in the game? That was a great throw.
Yeah. The one to Devontae Smith that was sort of a, questionably a pass interference. Was another good one. He had one where like the throw wasn't great, but the pocket he sort of climbed the pocket and hit Calvin on a crossing route. Yeah. And if he had let him better, he could have gotten some yards after the catch. But
he had a throw to Cam Sims that was like slightly out of bounds, just like really close to being like a great throw.
There's so many of these down the field plays where they're like CFB Film Room tweeted today that he's like his completion percentages from like behind the line and from 0 to 10 yards and from 10 to 20 yards are all really good. And then beyond 20 yards, he's hit like 2 of 18 passes. But it's not like these are, he's overthrowing him by 10 yards or he's underthrowing him and getting picked and stuff like that. It just seems like every single time he's throwing that deep ball, they're off by that much.
Yeah.
I mean, Well, I was just going to say that the deep shot is the single play in football with the slimmest margin for error, right? I mean,
Right.
there is absolutely no margin for error, and I agree with you. I don't think that those numbers are indicative of the fact that Jalen is struggling to make good throws down the field.
No. Well, particularly,
So
I was really encouraged to see that they had him measured it. Um, he's hit like 12 of 20 on for 60% on throws between 10 and 20 yards downfield, which is a number that I really, one, that shows both that they're doing it, and two, that he's connecting on them at a fairly good clip.
now, clearly though, what were you disappointed about from Jalen's performance, more specifically?
Didn't do a great job staying in the pocket at times when he could have. The couple times he got opportunities to throw on the run, they were not great throws.
Yeah.
Um,
I thought he seemed very impatient in the pocket. Even when he stayed in the pocket, he seemed very like herky jerky almost with his motions. There wasn't he didn't have like a calm demeanor in the pocket, which is different than the Jalen that we had seen the previous couple weeks. And also again, one of the still things that frustrates me is that even on positive plays, his processing is just still slow, right? He's still getting the ball to these guys slowly, like the touchdown to Devontae Smith, right? On that little whip route. Again, he's like he's just too long, and that there was so much margin for error there because he was wide open and it was just a walk in. But like the throw is just slow. It's just always slow getting the ball out of his hand.
Yeah.
Continue to have like one throw a game that you depend on a defensive back to drop a ball that's thrown right at him.
Right. Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's not. I don't know. It's a tough environment, and that's a great defensive line. I think we have to. It's important not to lose sight of that.
Yeah, I do. Like, I think people are generally not giving Texas A&M enough credit. I mean, I was at this game. First of all, like, especially in the second half, once things got tighter, like, that stadium is insane. First of all, fantastic place to see a ball game. Like, absolutely fantastic. It is so cool. Just like a great, like, constructed, laid out stadium. And the crowd was loud, really, really loud. And A&M's defensive line is really, they had 20 sacks coming into this game and were allowing under 100 rushing yards. Not against the best competition in the world, but I think Saturday showed that they certainly have no lack of talent.
Right.
And, who knows what they do the rest of the season, but at least for that game, the talent was really playing up to the level that it's capable of, I think.
And I thought the offensive line held up pretty well, at least in the run game. Didn't you guys think? I mean, there wasn't a ton of penetrations, right? There wasn't always huge like gaping holes, but they were pretty competitive at the very least.
Yeah, there certainly weren't a lot of negative plays. They did. I know if you look at you can't subtract out the biggest plays, but if you take out, I think I looked at it. If you take out the 75-yard TD by Damian, he and Bo averaged like less than 4 yards a carry.
Yeah.
So A&M was definitely doing work up front, but the offensive line was, I don't know, a disappointment compared to what we've seen the last couple weeks. But I don't know, they were playing a much better team. So
what do you guys make of the fact that Bo hasn't really broken out yet? I know I saw some talk about that on Twitter and everything. Is that a function of things that Bo isn't doing right, or
what would be breaking out? I mean, just like
I
big
saw
highlight
like
runs, or
like he's averaging like a full 2 yards less per carry this year than he was last year. Now, obviously, the samples are everything is different about his usage this year versus last year.
And I saw somewhere where someone ran a piece that was comparing the numbers of Alabama's skill players to what they were at this time last year. Yeah. And Bo had like the same. He had even fewer yards.
Right, but his usage at this point last year was almost was very minimal,
Was
right?
yeah.
Yeah. I think he still looks so powerful, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. No, I don't think it's.
Even this past game, which wasn't a great game for him, he still had a number of plays in which he really showed off both his like explosiveness and his power. He's still so tough to tackle.
And he continues to look great as a receiver, which is really
Yep.
nice. Like they're consistently doing damage when they get screen passes to him. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. The one thing I'll say is that watching the two of them side by side this year, I think has made me appreciate
Damien's vision.
Yeah, the gap in his vision as opposed to Bo's is
right.
pretty huge.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't think Bo's playing poorly. I don't think he's playing worse than he was playing last year when he was really the guy.
Right.
It may be just that last year when he was really breaking out at the end of the season, he was getting the bulk of the carries because Damien wasn't 100%, and so it may be just that he kind of is one of those guys where he tends to need a fair amount of carries before he really gets rolling.
Let me ask you guys this: should they, given everything we've seen from Damien, everything that we like from Damien, and given the fact that Bo's style is potentially more conducive to being successful later in games when the defense is already a little bit worn down, should the first half be less of a timeshare going forward?
Or at least with him.
Yeah,
were you talking about reinstalling Jacobs maybe as somebody who
the way it
him?
was last season, where Jacobs and Damien's kind of start out the game, and then because
I'm probably not ready to do that yet, personally.
Yeah.
I wouldn't pull the trigger on that yet, but I think it's something to think about.
Right. Something to think about for a bigger game down the line, because right now it's not even necessary to do these things because they're not going to lose these games coming up. So.
Yeah.
Because it really wasn't until the Clemson game that we started seeing Bo early on in the game last season. Right.
Bo against LSU was really his big breakout, where he was getting the bulk of the carries down the stretch, and then it wasn't until
he had the big run against Tennessee, but that was he got five total carries that game. Exactly.
It wasn't until the LSU game where you really saw him kind of break out and then lean on him, and it wasn't honestly really until the Washington game when he was the feature back.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say. Now that's for the backs. The receivers, I continue to be very impressed by the receivers and by the contributions that they're getting sort of down the line, right? I mean, they're getting these guys catches. They're getting these guys all snaps and catches in different parts of the game. I mean, you see Devontae Smith even getting a touchdown, right, in non-garbage time. You see Jerry Jeudy having. Where's that?
The touchdown was Ruggs.
Ruggs. I'm sorry. I meant Ruggs. Yeah. Right, Ruggs. Jeudy getting a lot of catches.
Yeah, I mean, Jeudy had a catch. Devontae Smith almost had a long catch that probably could have been a touchdown. They're not getting a ton of catches, but part of that's just because there aren't a whole lot of catches to go around.
Right.
But they're consistently involved in non-garbage time, which has been really nice to see.
Yeah. Foster obviously kind of had a rougher day.
Yep.
But
I think that's been discussed a fair amount at this point.
Yeah,
just not a great sequence, and you really, really hope that this kind of lights a fire and gets him going, because I don't know if he can't develop some more consistency, I kind of maybe think you want to start seeing Ruggs get more of his snaps.
Yeah, see him phase out a little bit. The one thing that I would say in defense of Foster is that he obviously had one particularly bad sequence and just generally not a great game. But he comes back later in the game. You know, he ran a good route and had what would have been a touchdown if not for the pass interference penalty. Mm-hmm. So at least he came back in within the same game and made a contribution late. Right. So I think you have to give him some credit for that.
Yeah.
Do we want him coming out first series next week? I mean,
yeah, because again, like there's still too much to there's still a lot to be gained by continuing to give him reps, right?
Yeah. I mean, you saw it on that long touchdown he had against Colorado State. The dude is fast.
Right.
And you don't want to, especially. I mean, this week against Arkansas, like you're not going to lose that.
Exactly.
Game. So if you can bring him out there, if you can get his confidence kind of back on track, and you get him to the point where you feel like he's comfortable and feel like he's going to contribute, then I think then you want him to contribute.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's how I'm looking at it. I don't want to lose him also.
Right.
You know, I don't want to lose him because Alabama right now is still playing for down the line, right? They're not even playing for right now. You know, so I think the last thing you want to do is start prematurely phasing guys out or reducing their snaps when you're really playing for later. This is a very unique situation where, I mean, granted, they kind of almost lost A&M, although they didn't really almost lose. It
was never.
The result was never in doubt. That's kind of the thing that I think is important here. Maybe we should have touched on this earlier. The result was never in doubt. And I think one of the big reasons why the result was never in doubt, and maybe this is a good time to transition, is that the defense was great.
Yeah.
Didn't you guys think that? Like, I don't think enough was made about how well the defense played. Now, granted, quarterback is not very good, okay? But it's still a challenging offense. They have challenging skill position players. It's a pretty good offensive line, tough environment. That's a very challenging offense to face. And I thought the defense was exceptional.
Yeah. I mean, basically, you think about it, A&M's great play. They had basically 2 long passes, or I guess one of them wasn't that long, but they had a long pass that got them down for their final touchdown,
which was a fluke play. The guy's running crazy out of the pocket. He makes the throw of his life into like double coverage.
Yeah. And then the touchdown, the first touchdown was the same way.
Yeah, let's talk about the first touchdown. Alabama turns the ball over at I think their own 30 or 35, right? Yeah. They immediately put A&M in a 4th down. A&M gets that 4th down on a little crossing pass. Impressive for them, okay? But it took them to 4th down to get it. They get down to like, I don't know, inside the 10 to the 5. Then Alabama immediately puts them in another 4th down, a 4th and goal situation from like the 6, helped out by a false start. And then a sort of a crazy play for the touchdown, right?
I mean, he went out there and looking like Johnny Manziel.
Now, let me ask you a question. Were you guys 100% convinced that was a catch? That he had complete possession of that football before? Now, I know possession is instantaneous in the end zone, but were you guys completely convinced that was a catch, that he had completely secured the ball? Now, his hands touching the football, yes. But did he actually have the ball secured before his knee was down on the white?
So I think if you're reviewing that, you probably, see that, and that was the problem with that they didn't review it.
Exactly.
Frankly, ridiculous that you aren't going to review a scoring play that's that close. Like,
right.
I always hate to belabor this point, but like, the officials were terrible in this game. Like abjectly terrible. And that's all I have to say about that. But
I don't understand why Nick doesn't ever challenge. You can't always rely on the booth to make the reviews. We've talked about this before. He said this once a number of years ago when they were playing in Mississippi State, where they asked him after a game why he didn't challenge a bad call, and he said he had no idea it was a bad call. He was like, well, if it was a bad call, why didn't the booth review it? Well, sometimes the booth doesn't review calls. Sometimes they mess up. Sometimes they make mistakes, and sometimes you need to force the issue there. Now, is that something to really kill Nick over? No, it's not. The call probably stands anyway. It's probably a touchdown, whatever.
Yes. But so that's the thing is I don't think you would overturn that if you're reviewing it because it was called a touchdown on the field. But every time I look at the replay, it doesn't look to me like he really has like completed the catch, if you will, before the ball hits his hands when his foot is down in the end zone. Yeah. But then I think as he completes the catch, like he doesn't have the ball in control until his knee touched down out of bounds.
Right. To me, Nick just seems like philosophically opposed to ever challenging. I can't even remember a time that he challenged the call.
With as
Yeah.
many support staff as they have, I mean, it would seem mind-boggling that they don't have someone maybe even dedicated to just that job.
And,
I mean, it
and
could
if
be
there's
that important.
right, and if there's even a chance that it's a bad call, and the booth doesn't review it, there's nothing to lose.
Well, I mean, the time. That's what I was going to say. Maybe he's risk averse to losing a timeout he might need later.
Yeah, that could be. I don't want to. I guess the
I mean,
timeout is.
we've seen him just go off on coaches
Yeah.
for having to burn timeouts.
Yeah,
and,
right. So which is why maybe that play was not the time to use it.
Yeah.
To challenge. But I guess I'm just saying though that it's interesting to me that he never wants a challenge.
Yeah, definitely.
And maybe there's a time down the line when that would be worth it. But I think. Anyway, the point is that they had to fight tooth and nail to even get that touchdown.
Yeah.
And then like Carter said, the next touchdown, I mean, they kick the ball short, so they gave him good field position. They get a first down, they get one first down, and then they throw that crazy pass, once in 100 pass down the right sideline there. So other than that, defense was great.
This is as good as I thought about the pass rush.
The Ford and Williams are, like I was saying, Ford and Williams are really good backs, and they, not that it's exactly a revelation or a shocking thing to say, wow, Alabama was really good on run defense, but they had like 50 total yards.
Yeah, they were great. They
had 4, so they now have 9 sacks over the last. Alabama now has 9 sacks over the last 2 weeks, including 4 in this game, while missing Deshaun Hand.
Yeah.
And that, and it's finally, we talked all along before about how, we're going to have to see really manufactured pressure in this game, with this team. And we're still going to see that. We're still seeing a lot of that. We're still seeing way more of it than we saw last season.
Yeah.
But you're starting to get most of those sacks the last 2 weeks have come from the defensive front,
right.
your defensive linemen and outside linebackers. And considering that my biggest worry all along this season
was splash plays from those guys.
Yeah, exactly. Was that you have a lack of disruptive players on the edge and along the line. Well, now they're kind of doing it. I can't say enough how impressed I am with how well Anthony Jennings is playing since he's come back. He's led Alabama in quarterback hurries since he got back. Looks awesome too. So I think the play of the defensive line and outside linebackers generally, and particularly of those two guys, is really, really encouraging for Alabama going forward.
And there was something this week about like Rashawn not even being 100%. Did I see that? Was he the one that was talking about not being able to sit down or?
Yeah. So he tweeted something about he's like, I'm not even close to 100%. Like, when's the last time you had to do the second number on my jersey while standing up?
Jesus!
Like, thank you for that visual, Rashawn. But
my God. It's very nice of him to share that publicly. But yeah, I mean, it's
just that if he's not even 100% and still.
And he played pretty well on Saturday.
He did. I think when you look at with the defensive line, the first thing you like is that they seem to have really settled on a starting 4, right? Yeah. You've got Buggs, you've got Payne, you've got Raekwon Davis, and you've got Anthony Jennings. And I mean those guys have been, I think Carter's put it right. Jennings and Buggs have been like a revelation the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And Jennings, we sat here talking back when Terrell Hall or Terrell Lewis, I'm sorry, when Terrell Lewis and Christian Miller went down. We're like, well, Jennings, we like him to set the edge, but not necessarily to get after the passer.
Yeah. Well, now and the funny thing to me is that I said when we were talking about that, I was like, what he kind of reminds me of is like pre-2015
Ryan Anderson.
Yeah.
And now maybe he's like, he's not 2016 Ryan Anderson yet, but he might be 2015 Ryan Anderson now. I
mean, those 4 guys, for as much has been made about the lack of talent that Alabama has along the defensive line, how many foursomes in the country do you take over those guys? I mean, I'm not asking to literally give a number or we don't even have to start comparing, but I'm just saying like they're top 10 probably.
I would even go as far as top 5.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like
maybe you take Ohio State's or Clemson's or Florida State's over these. I wouldn't quibble too much about any of those, but I think we feel that they're somehow diminished having watched Alabama have like easily and without competition the
The
best
best.
front in
Yeah.
the country the last 2 years. But I would say, especially like please let them all be healthy at
Yeah.
once for like more than 2 games.
Yeah.
Uh, or let them all, besides the ones that are out for the season, be healthy for more than 2 games. But I really like this unit.
I thought even James Mosley played pretty well. I thought he showed some more explosiveness.
So I would need to go back and watch again because there were some plays where I thought I was like, wow, look at you, Jamie Mosley, that was great. And then I realized it was 18 and not 16, and it's actually Dylan Moses.
Oh, do you think I was making the same mistake?
Because
That's
Dylan Moses, you might, I don't know. I would need to go back and look at those plays
That's
and figure
funny.
out which of them were Jamie Mosley and which of them were
That's
Dylan
funny. I just
Moses.
took it. I might have been making the same mistake. I saw a nice clip of Dylan Moses rushing the passer. I think it was late in the game.
Yeah.
Kind of on a little outside rush move. Yeah, he. Oh, yeah. Well, okay. Well, he played well too.
Yeah.
They really all played well along the front.
And Brian Ray. I mean, it was
Yeah,
late in
coming
the
in and
game.
getting that sack.
Coming and got the sack. Looked good. Looked really good.
Yeah.
He doesn't. He's listed at like 272 pounds. Which is you can see why they wanted him to redshirt because that's like 10 pounds heavier than any of Alabama's outside linebackers, but not nearly even for a defensive like a smaller defensive end like a 4-3 type. That's still small, but like the pictures I've seen of him, like I didn't realize that was him first of all when we were watching because he didn't look like Chris Allen looked skinny out there.
Right.
But
Dylan Moses does not.
Brian Ray does not
And
look small.
LeBron doesn't either. Yeah. Yeah. They don't. I thought that the response to the safety, the first bit of real adversity that they faced. Honestly, the first bit of real adversity that they faced since Florida State.
Yep.
I thought that it was very telling how well they responded to that.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody came out. Who came out and got the sack right away on the first play? Quinn Williams. He came out right away and got the sack on the first play. Now, obviously, Levi picked up a pass interference penalty to continue to keep the drive alive on third down. But then right away, they pushed him back again. Ray had a sack. And I thought that was a real exceptional job. And then the offense gets the ball back, and they put together a nice little drive.
Yeah.
And that really impressed me. The first little bit of adversity you have faced in over a month, and I thought they responded really well. And that makes me feel very good about how this team can potentially handle, key pressure situations going forward.
Mm-hmm. And especially because, at that point, A&M has scored 9 straight. Facing adversity was being up 12 points instead of 20.
I should right.
But
that's a good point.
But at that point, Alabama was in control of the game, up 21 points, and then you give up a touchdown, and then you give up a safety.
Right, and the crowd's going crazy, and
like the stadium was nuts after that safety.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they lost the lead or anything like that, but I do think it's fair to describe that as kind of a pressure situation
relative to at least other situations that they've been in to date, right?
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys a question because my dad pointed this out to me. It's sort of a hypothetical. That situation for the safety. Do you guys think that Alabama should have just taken a safety intentionally there? There was 10 minutes left, and they're up 14. They're snapping the ball from the 1-yard line. Either way, A&M is going to have to score 2 touchdowns here to win this, to have a chance to win the game. Okay, safety or no safety, right? It's going to be 12 or 14, so they need 2 touchdowns. I feel like you increase their chances of scoring 2 touchdowns by punting that ball away.
Yeah, because you're gonna have to max protect.
You're gonna They're gonna get great field position. They could get field position inside the 40 even if they have even somewhat of a decent return. But they're almost certainly gonna get the ball in plus territory.
Huh.
Yeah, I think now I don't know that Nick is ever the sort of dude who would do that outside. In a last couple minutes of the game where it's it's a I'm blanking on a scenario.
Well, like a John Harbaugh in the Super Bowl against 49ers.
Yeah.
One of those.
There are situations in the end of a game where you obviously want to take a safety. And I think Nick would do that. I don't know if, like, at that point,
Too early in the game, he doesn't want to concede points.
Yeah.
Mitch?
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say,
you remember like the Draymond Green at that press conference at one point where he just like it was like he just shut off.
Yeah.
Well,
what's happened? Like it's happened a couple of times during the show tonight. Just like you guys will go out for like a few seconds, and I thought that's what happened.
You froze while you were saying that, which is kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we want to take this like really next level, instead of taking the safety, I might just go like 5 wide or something. And then if it looks like if we're already considering the safety as like an option here, like, well, I guess that puts a pick 6.
Well, if you go, well, what's the question? You're going, what's the idea?
But you go 5 wide and try to hit the play, and if it's not there, you just take a knee in the end zone or something.
Or you don't max protect. You don't
right.
if you have to hold, you get a holding. I mean, big deal. I mean, if you're already accepting the safety.
Except what if you do throw the ball and you don't convert?
You've not run any time off, but like.
But then they get the ball to 1 yard line.
You do throw you're talking about just on 4th down.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm talking about once you get to 4th down. You're talking about before plays before.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about if we're before. Okay, I see what you're saying.
No, I don't want to do it before 4th down, if only because I could run a couple plays, run some time off the clock, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm just talking about on 4th down.
Gotcha. Then no. Yeah, no, I would not do that.
Now that would be gutsy. That would be gutsy to leave the offense out. Mitch, are you still with us? Your video went out. Oh, you're still there. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Ooh, apparently, Saban's press conference was quote entertaining tonight.
Interesting. I guess the one thing we didn't cover yet is the secondary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, played pretty well. I think. Like you think about where Mon threw for like 230 yards or something like that.
Yeah.
You think about the vast majority of those yards came on, like a couple of so like the first 4th down that they converted on the scramble drill touchdown drive, which was kind of a longer throw down the field. That touchdown itself, which I think so there was it was like well, maybe not from there, but like they had some good plays on the swing passes. Basically, I'm doing a poor job of explaining it, but basically, the majority of A&M's passing yards came on either throws behind the line of scrimmage or that were just prayers.
Right, I agree.
Like, they really didn't, and obviously Mond is a true freshman who they didn't expect to start, so you wouldn't expect the passing game to be advanced. But it really wasn't like their receivers were just going out there and destroy. I mean, there was one where Christian Kirk kind of caught a short ball and made something out of it and beat Mink on it, but Christian Kirk is.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. They've got good players too.
Yeah.
Levi, couple penalties.
Yeah, one of which should never have been called because the ball was
exactly. Oh yeah, on that 3rd down. Yeah. Okay. They didn't. I don't even know how many times they threw at Anthony Averett. If they threw at him like more than 2 or 3 times.
I don't even recall him being involved on any plays.
So that's good. That's good at least, right? If he's playing, it's hard to know from watching on the TV footage. But I mean, if he's playing well enough to almost shut down to basically make the quarterback not even look in his direction, I mean that's a really good sign. Well, once they start to play some better passing offenses, whenever that comes, that'll probably be a better test of where Averett is. But right now I think you got to be happy with that. Minka obviously had a good game.
Yeah. There was one play where Blackledge pointed this out on the broadcast that Alabama either got a sack or they made a good play because Mond was looking for Christian Kirk and he had Christian Kirk matched up on Ronnie Harrison and was expecting him to get that, and Ronnie just had him locked up. So I've been really impressed with and I guess you could sort of see this coming from the way that they've just chosen to keep Ronnie at safety full time and not use him at money anymore.
Ronnie's coverage coming along.
Really his role. Yeah, so I've been really impressed with his development as a team safety. I think Hootie made one or two nice plays.
Yeah, Hootie had a couple good plays in coverage, if I remember correctly, so that's good. Yeah, I was pleased. Overall, I thought the defense played a great game.
Yeah, me too.
So that kind of, I guess that kind of covers A&M. It was, so you can't always win pretty. Can't always blow everybody out.
And you're not against teams that have talent. Even if forget. First of all, I think A&M, the loss to UCLA has been really overblown because sometimes everything just goes. And first of all, I think people keep forgetting that that's the game where their quarterback got hurt and they just had to throw Mond out there to the fire, in the middle of a game, and he was like a deer in headlights and was they had nothing in the passing game, and when you throw a kid out in that situation and the other team can key on the run. And also Rosen, this sounds weird for me to say it in defense of A&M, but Rosen wasn't even that good that game.
Yeah.
Really, they just had UCLA had so many breaks go their way for that to happen. I think that was really misleading as to how good A&M is. Yeah. And when you have a team that has talent like that and you're playing in their house, especially in circumstances like that, sometimes you're just gonna be playing ugly.
I mean, I would say Alabama's offense could have executed a little bit better.
Yeah.
And the defense could have gotten a little bit luckier.
Yep.
On some of those crazy plays. And if both of those things happen, which are totally reasonable, then instead of a 9-point margin, or an 8-point margin, you're looking at probably, a 21-point margin or something, or even a 24-point margin or something like that.
Well, yeah, or just, think about if Devontae Smith doesn't get held on that long throw and makes that play for a touchdown, or if Robert Foster, say if that happens and there's no DPI on Foster, now it's a 24-point win, something like that.
Exactly. It can change just like that. So overall, it's you can't always play your best game. I think that's just the biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
But they won, and that's what matters.
Yep. Is it even worth talking about Arkansas? Really?
Probably not. Alabama's going to win this game. 20.
This game is this Arkansas team. There have been years recently where Bielema's Arkansas teams were better than their record. This is not one of those years.
No.
They're bad.
28-point spread for a conference game for an SEC game is a lot of points.
Well, I don't know. Did y'all even see? Because this game completely escaped my notice. But they played South Carolina on Saturday and got beat 48-22.
Yeah, they're bad.
Yeah,
they're terrible. So this is just I don't know. They're
not only bad, but as we've discussed before with pro style teams, they play a style of offense that is very poorly suited to beating Alabama.
Exactly. They're bad and they're uniquely ill-equipped to do anything of significance against Alabama. We'll say maybe Alabama comes out a little sloppy, and instead of winning by 50 points, they only win by 35. But either way, it's going to be a pretty lopsided margin, I would think.
I would sort of be I know this spread is huge, and they just failed to cover a huge spread, but I'd sort of be shocked if they don't cover this time.
Yeah, and I think Tua, a lot of reps for him probably, and just for the second team as a whole. So feel pretty good about that.
I think we have 20 minutes before we lose you to.
For the Yankees.
Yeah. So, I don't know. What do we have any things to talk about?
I have a quick question. So do we? I mean, thinking about how do we want to be attempting 50-yard field goals?
So what was the down and distance for that?
I literally said in the stadium for that game, I was like, Nick, please, can we stop using JK on field goals?
Yeah.
And can we just, if it's outside of Papanastos' range, just go
punt
for
the
it?
ball. Yeah, or just punt it over.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Well, we've seen this with Nick before, right? Go back to the LSU game in 2011, where he's just attempting field goals that I didn't think he had any chance to make. And like early in the game too, when points weren't the end all be all. I think he just hates the idea sometimes of leaving points off the board, or leaving the potential for points off the board. What was the down and distance on that possession?
I do not remember.
I think I can pull this up. Give me 1 second, because I had the play-by-play up earlier.
4th and 6 at the
4th and
32.
6?
That to me is a go for it.
I would just go for that. 4th and 6 at the 32, or I would just go.
Yep.
There's a chance to me. The only thing about doing this is like if you really need to later, this could set up like a pooch punt, maybe.
Maybe. But you could go for it and still pooch punt if you wanted to.
Yeah.
You know, you could use a go for it, you know, and then from there go for a pooch punt. You know. The interesting thing about that is that JK hit that ball pretty well.
Yeah.
And it still didn't go in.
Right.
So
yeah.
That probably tells you everything you need to know about the likelihood of making one of those. Now, he has made one, right? Didn't he make a long one this year in one game? Maybe a 50-something?
Yeah, he's like 1 for 3 on the year.
So. I want to say he hit one at least. But I agree. I think it's important to kind of maybe take a different strategy up on some of those. I guess it all depends on the circumstance. There are circumstances in which I would want them to attempt that kick. But in most cases, probably not.
It was a 48-yarder.
Okay. You know, it might also be like they don't want to put Jalen first drive. They don't want to put Jalen back in an obvious pass situation if they don't have to. Worried about that. Maybe worried about the A&M pass rush making a play and kind of, you know, getting A&M off to a quick start that way. And they think it's just safer to just attempt the field goal, and obviously punt isn't an option from that part of the field. I don't know, but generally I would err on the side of just going for it.
Right.
And you can be safe too. Like if you wanted to in a 6-yard situation, you could even, you know, either QB draw all the way if you got him spread out and you get the look you want, or sort of a run pass option there for Jalen. Like it doesn't need to be just like a straight drop back and throw the ball. Right, so you can keep it safer there if the big concern is like allowing the defense to make a big play. What you got? Anything around the country that you guys of note? What were the big games on Saturday? I'm honestly totally blanking.
There weren't really any big ones.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You had the 2 big upsets, so that was fun.
Right. Oklahoma. Oh my God.
Yeah. Right. I think this is like the 6th straight season where they've lost as a 10-point favorite or something like that. 10-plus point favorite.
Did anybody see anything of the Clemson game? Interesting. I did not expect them to only win by 14 at home against Wake.
Well, Kelly Bryant got hurt at one
point. Right.
But I don't know, like, what the score was at that point. They didn't. I mean, and that's the thing I continue to say about this Clemson team is that they, on offense, they basically just dick around most of the game and then score when they need to.
Right.
And that was kind of what happened again. Which is fine if you have confidence in your ability to turn on that gear every time you need it, but. I don't know. I think playing that way is kind of playing with fire.
Yeah, I do too. Michigan's offense got pretty badly exposed.
Yeah, their offensive line is awful.
Yeah, and the quarterback play isn't much better.
Really, I mean, granted, like that game was in a
bad weather,
in a monsoon.
Yeah,
and they turned the ball over 5 times.
Yeah.
It is absolutely hilarious to look at the drive chart from that game because Michigan State, I think they had 1 touchdown off a short field and 1 long drive for a touchdown, and then every other drive is like 3 plays, punt, 4 plays, punt, 3 plays, punt, 3 plays, punt. Like it's so many. I think it might have been on Shutdown Fullcast. I think they were talking about it's like, oh, Michigan State pulled that upset. Did they like hit a couple big plays? Nope. Did they like outgain Michigan? Nope. Did they Michigan had a bunch of penalties and stuff like nope. Like literally, like, other than the turnovers, which obviously is a huge thing, this game had none of the marks
Of a big upset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just like a gross, like, grumpy punt fest.
How about this for a question? We haven't done this yet, and it's a little early, but what would be your guys' playoff if the season ended today?
Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, and I have no idea who 4 is.
You don't want to put Penn State in?
Like, who have they beat?
Well, let's see. So Penn State
biggest win is like Iowa, right?
Penn State beat Iowa by 2 points.
Yeah. And yeah, people are like, "Oh, playing at Iowa at night." Okay.
Yeah. They'll play Michigan at home this week. They'll probably win that game, and then they go to Ohio State. Ohio State is rolling right now. Now, bad teams for sure, but they're rolling.
Yeah. That's honestly, I'm sort of tempted to say Ohio State because
more because you're projecting what they're at, less about what they've done to date and more about what you think they're going to become moving forward.
Well, right.
Yeah, that's just very on brand for this show too.
I mean, yeah,
extremely
on brand. Yeah,
they just Ohio State. Like they, they were bad against Oklahoma. Like, not much you can say about that. But it happened. It happens sometimes. They were bad against a terrible Virginia Tech team in 2014, and then look what happened.
Yeah. Let me read you guys off a schedule real quick. This is Washington State, who's currently undefeated.
Cougs, baby.
Mike Leach. Just I love Mike Leach, so just gonna give you guys a real quick rundown here. Okay, so we're 6-0. Okay, and we've already beaten USC. At Cal, home Colorado, at Arizona, home Stanford, at Utah, and then at Washington. Now, they could go in. They
could go into Seattle at 11-0.
They could. Yeah. They could. Now, Washington schedule at Arizona State, home UCLA, home Oregon, at Stanford, home Utah. That could be undefeated versus undefeated in the Apple Cup.
Yeah.
Really, the only thing standing in the way might be Stanford.
Yep.
I'd be a little surprised if Utah doesn't upset one of them.
Maybe I could see that.
Yeah, it wouldn't be shocking.
But maybe Washington State, they get Washington State plays at Utah between Stanford and Washington. That's an opportunity for a loss, maybe.
Yeah.
But there's an interesting situation out west where maybe
And like, if one of those teams is 13-0, or even 12, like given past history, even 12 and like, they probably make it.
Yeah.
Just because I don't think the committee's ever going to be in the business of locking out a lot of 12-1 Power 5 champions. But am I at this point willing to call either of them one of the best 4 teams in the country?
No. Certainly
based on what we know from Washington last
year
when they only played 2 good teams and got whipped both times.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's sort of an interesting situation. Maybe an Alabama versus Mike Leach matchup in the national semifinal would be.
That would be a hell of a thing.
That would be interesting. Mike, I'm sure Mike would have some very interesting quotes leading up to that game. He would have some things.
Can you imagine like the photo ops and the like joint press conferences?
Him and Saban. Oh my God.
It would be the.
There was a video of him talking. There was a video of him listing out the places louder than Autzen.
Oh, yeah.
Did you guys see that?
No.
He's listing out the place.
What did he said? He's like, oh, it's probably the loudest in the conference, but I played lots of places that are louder. And so he starts just reeling off like SEC and Big 12 stadiums.
He starts just listing off very specific stadiums, and then he goes, and there's Alabama. I never played at Alabama, but when I was with Kentucky, we beat Alabama. And I was like, okay, I love you, Mike Leach. That's amazing. Yeah. You just had to toss that in there. It wasn't relevant at all.
No.
It was good. Oh, anyway. Okay. Well, should we do predictions for Arkansas? We missed predictions last week.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Probably a good week to miss predictions because our predictions probably score-wise would have been wrong.
42-7.
52-7.
Give me a 40-42 nothing.
Okay, shutout. I like that.
I'll take that shutout.
I like that. All right.
All right. Well, that's it for this week. We actually kept it reasonably short for once.
Yeah.
Foiled by YouTube and copyright law. But yeah, we'll see y'all next week and roll tide.
Roll tide.